Welcome back, trio. Today we're going over finding the sides of a right triangle. Given a right angle in the triangle, we call that a right triangle, where the one leg is called the altitude and we use A, one leg is called the base, we use B, and the other side, important, the side opposite the right angle, we call the hypotenuse, and we use the letter C to represent the hypotenuse. Just because AB followed by C. But A is usually the altitude, B is usually the base, C is always the hypotenuse, which is the side opposite the right angle. So now let's go over a formula to find these sides. The most classic one is called the Pythagorean theorem, which says that A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now, the way that I like to do it is to identify whichever side I'm looking for. If I'm looking for C, that will be equal to the square root of A squared plus B squared. If I'm looking for A, that's going to be equal to the square root of C squared minus B squared. If I'm looking for B, that's going to be equal to the square root of C squared minus A squared. I like to look at it this way: CAB, cab. I'm from New York, this is cab, it reminds me of home. Now I can remember the formulas for any side of the triangle. So now let's put these formulas, this is all the same formula, just written differently, looking for and isolating a particular side of the triangle. Now let's put it into practice. Given the problem, right angle, let's call this 3, let's call this 4, let's call this C. We're trying to find C, which I said would always represent the hypotenuse. So C equals square root, we have our C formula right here, A squared plus B squared. Always important to write down the formula you're going to use and then use it. So C equals square root 4 squared plus 3 squared. C equals square root 4 squared is 16, 3 squared is 9, 16 plus 9 is 25. Now, when you take the square root of 25, you usually say in a math class plus or minus. But because we're talking about the length, the length is always positive. So C equals 5 units, whatever units you may have. Thank you. I'll be back with another example. Welcome back. We got another example. This time we're looking for the base, and we need to find the base given that this is a right triangle. That means this is the hypotenuse, this is the altitude. We're looking for the base. The formula is B equals the square root of C squared minus A squared. B equals the square root. In this case, C is 2 root 2. And we're going to square that. Minus 2 squared. So now let's see what we get. B equals square root. We can square both of these individually. 2 squared is 4 times 2. So we get 4 times 2, because the square root of 2 squared is just 2. Minus 2 squared is 4. So we get B equals square root 8 minus 4. B equals square root of 4. B equals square root of 4. Because we're talking about the length, it has to be positive, and that's just going to be 2. So we have a special right triangle here where the legs actually equal each other, and whenever that's the case, the hypotenuse will be that same length times square root of 2. And here we just proved it. So again, whatever units you may be using, that's the units you put. Straight units because it's just length. I'll be back with another video, with another example. Welcome back, trio. We're back with another example. This time we have a right triangle with that right angle, and we're looking for the altitude of this triangle. So we can use the formula A equals square root C squared minus B squared. Or in this case, A equals the square root of 13 squared minus 12 squared. A equals square root 13 squared, 169. 12 squared, 144. A equals square root 25. So A equals 5. Again, we're finding the length, so it's always going to be positive, and A equals 5, whatever units you may be using for your particular problem. If this was centimeters, this would be centimeters. If this was inches, this would be inches. Go trio!